All right, I'd like to give you a quick lesson on how to use sheets to do your calculations for the chemistry lab 4-1-Beanium. Once you've collected data, go ahead and type it into the sheet. Now you can get a blank version of this if you would like. Look for the link on our assignment page, and you can just fill your numbers in to the blank version. If you already have the numbers, like I do, that's great. We'll get started on calculations. I'm going to go kind of quickly through these calculations, and so feel free to pause the video and go back if you miss any of these steps. First thing I want to show you how to do is to take a total. We've got the number of beans in our sample. Please note that my numbers are very high compared to yours, and you do want to use your own data for this. It will be more accurate. Whenever you want a spreadsheet to do a calculation, you type a formula. Please notice there's a formula bar up here, which mirrors what we're typing in the cell, and sometimes it's easier to actually type in the formula bar. And here I'm going to type in the word sum, which will take the sum of all the numbers that I put inside these parentheses. And then I'm going to basically type in the locations for the numbers that are going to be summed, starting at B4, typing a colon, which means go all the way up to every cell touching B4 to B7 and close my parentheses. Notice when I hit the enter button, I get the sum of all of those numbers. The next calculation I'd like to do is to find the average mass of one isotope using the mass of 20 isotopes. Again, I'm going to type a formula, so up in the formula bar I'm going to click there and type equals, since it's a calculation. I want to take the number that is in cell C4. Now, please note that I'm going to type in the reference for the cell, C4, and not 25.7. There's a reason for that. Type in the reference for the cell, and then hit your divided by or slash button, and divide that by the number 20. When you hit enter, it'll take 25.70 and divide by 20, or your number divided by 20. To do that calculation in the next cell, I'm going to type the equals button, and this one is in cell C5. I'm going to also divide that by 20. So we notice that there's a pattern here. This was C4 divided by 20. This one is C5 divided by 20. The next one will be, of course, C6 divided by 20, and then C7 divided by 20. There's a nice feature in a spreadsheet program, and that feature lets you take the formula you already typed and paste it into the cells next to it. So you can either hit the buttons Control C and then down here hit Control V, and it will paste that formula in. Or there's another way to do that too. I'll show you that on the next calculation. Here, let me just do, again, Control C, and then I hit in the cell underneath it Control V, and it pastes that formula in. Please notice in the formula bar that the spreadsheet program figured out that for this cell we're going to be taking C7 and dividing it by 20, and the cell above C6 divided by 20. In other words, it understood, because of the way we programmed this, that each time we do a calculation in this column, column D, we want to take the number that's right next to it in column C and divide it by 20. And that is why I didn't just type in 25.7 divided by 20, because then I couldn't reuse that formula. All right, it's always a good idea to check your numbers, make sure they make sense. These numbers should all be about a 20th of these numbers, which it looks like they are. Next calculation, percent abundance. To find the percent abundance, we are going to type in a formula again, and the formula is, type in the equal sign. The formula is we want to take the number of beans in the sample, doing the kidney beans right now, and divide it by the total number of beans. In other words, I'm going to type, again, not 336, but the reference for 336. Now, there's a short way to get that reference, and if you just click on it, the computer will automatically put the reference for that cell into your formula. Sometimes that gets confusing if you're trying to click on the screen while you're typing. You start clicking, and the computer thinks you're typing in references up here. And so if you're ever stuck on that and you're trying to get the computer to stop typing in references, you hit the escape key and you can start fresh. All right. Now back to my cell E4. Click on the cell, go up to the formula, typing in this, equals, typing B4 or clicking on B4, divided by or slash B9. So I'll click on that. When I hit enter, computer will do that calculation for me and give me a very, very precise number, way more precise than we actually know. All of those extra digits are really meaningless. So what you may want to do is click up there, and let's go, we can decrease the decimal places with this button here. It would make more sense to keep, well, I'm going to keep 3 digits in my measurements here. All right, using our new shortcut, I'm going to try copying this one, copy, and then down here I'm going to paste that formula in. And to get an error, this error code tells me that I'm trying to divide by 0, which cannot be done. So looking up at my formula, I can find the problem. Up in my formula, it took B5, which is the number of white beans, 421, and it divided it by B10. Now B10 has nothing in it. So the computer, in its wisdom, realized, oh, I see what you're doing. You're taking this number here, and you're dividing it by the number that is about 5 boxes below. So I'll just do that every time you paste that formula in. I'll go over 3 boxes, and I'll divide that number by the number 5 boxes below. And therein is the problem. There is no number in B10. What we really wanted to do is to keep using B9 over and over again, not to change the denominator of this calculation. There is a way to do that. In my formula, I'm going to tell the computer what I want you to do, and I'll fix that in my first formula in cell E4. I am going to type this formula so the B9 value is used in each calculation. In other words, I'm going to constrain this formula to always use B9, and I do that by typing $B $9 and hit enter. Now you'll notice nothing changed on this calculation because it was already doing that calculation right. But here's the great part. If I copy this, Control C, and paste it down below, Control V, you'll notice now we have a number, and if I look at my formula bar, this time it took cell B5 and divided it by B9 again. And if I paste that in the next cell, notice that it's still dividing by B9. And that's because we put in the dollar signs to tell the computer, use that number each time. Let's turn all of these calculations into percentages. There's a little button on here that will format numbers. If you don't like them as decimals, you can click on the percent button and it will turn those all into percents. And again, that seems like they have a few too many digits. I'm going to decrease digits again by 1. We'll just call these, write these to the tenths place. That's fine. Down here, we're going to do a calculation we've done already. In this box, we're going to take the sum of all these. And the sum of each of my percentages should add up to 100. This time, rather than typing in the references, watch how I do this. I'm just going to drag through all the cells I want in the sum and close my parentheses. Notice that the computer figured I wanted between cells E4 and E7, and it's going to add all those for me when I hit enter. And we get 100%, which we expected. All right, for the last calculation, follow the formula that's on our lab handout. And that formula says that we're going to take the percentage number times the mass. We're going to multiply those for each isotope. In other words, I'm going to type this in as I'm talking, equals, I want to take E4 times, which is the asterisk symbol on the keyboard, Shift 8, E4 times D4. And notice I didn't type these in this time. I just clicked on the boxes where those numbers were found. That's my equation. I hit enter, and I get a value. And again, a value that's got way too many digits, so I decrease those. And again, I'll keep about 3 for my calculations. All right, so I'll paste that formula into each of the cells, this time using a different shortcut. I want you to notice my cursor. I've selected a box that has a formula in it. This cell is F4. I'm going to move my cursor to the bottom right-hand corner of the cell that is selected, and it turns into a plus sign. Now I'm going to hold down the button, and while I'm holding my mouse button, I'm going to drag down to the 3 cells underneath, and when I get to the 3rd cell, I'm going to release the button, And notice that was the same effect of copying and pasting that formula all the way down. Last calculation, we need to add all these numbers up. There's a couple ways we can do that. What I want you to do is type a formula in for this. So you're either going to sum up all of these boxes up here, or if you want a shortcut, remember this formula here, we already summed up the 4 boxes in the table above. Well, if I drag that formula over to the right, it should do the same thing. It should look at the 4 boxes above it and add up each of those values. Okay? If you don't trust that, then go ahead and type the formula in, but it will come out the same. The formula says equals sum F4 colon F7. And this is the most important number in the lab. The whole reason we were doing this lab is because we were trying to find what is the weighted average mass of each of the beans in our sample. This is how you calculate atomic mass. Good luck with your calculations. Finish your lab report. Turn it in.